as a trader today is a actually really complex, philosophical, difficult question. It's as big as a mountain, and we'll turn it into a molehill so that you can gobble it right up and understand it in bite size a little bit. It's really going to be very helpful for you as a trader. So, welcome to the show, everybody. We've also got news, as you can see beside me here, from the community. We'll see what the community has been talking about this week. And as I said, technical analysis, price predictions, trade setups. I'm a trader coach. So if you're just joining me for the first time, you'll probably benefit from this, even if the technical analysis was obsolete, so to speak, by the time you're seeing this, because I only ever give people trade setups in a way that actually is a trader coaching way. And so you should actually benefit from this kind of no matter what, even if you watch it 10 years later. Cool. Something for everybody in today's show today. Hit that like button, it's appreciated. Not sure who it's appreciated by. Me, I do appreciate it. I like seeing the number of likes on a video. And if we get this video up to a couple hundred likes, then I will take one of my members only videos that I have and make it public. You'd be thinking, oh, what's the point in that, possibly? Well, today's show, like I said, is about personality and trader style. And this video is a perfect lead-in to one of my other educational videos, which I will be linking to in the description of this video, and I'll maybe pin it as a comment in the comments. But it's members only, right? So, but if we get this video here up to 200 likes, then I'll make it so that members only video is public. Great, eh? So all you have to do, if you find the content today valuable, which you will, hit the like button and you'll get more valuable content. Neat trick, isn't it? Good to see people in chat, like our number one chatter, Rocky Bobby. Much love to you out there in the chat, to the number one chatter. Number one chatter is, of course, absolute legend. She's amazing. It's not a surprise to me that she's in there as number one. Well done. Well done, Rocky Bobby. This is the Bitcoin chart beside me, by the way. We'll be talking about this in today's show. You'll recognize it if you've seen one of my shows in the past, because there's a diagonal line just there, another one just there. Oh, thanks for the super chat. That's cool. Should really get my alert thingy to be on top of everything else in my there, so it fits. There we go. That's better. It's been a few weeks I've been meaning to do that. Yeah, so you'll recognize this chart beside me, right? Because just here, there's these diagonal lines that go up the screen. So long-time viewers of the show will be like, oh, I know what that is. You don't actually, because those lines there are new. They're new lines. They're new lines. The reason why you might have recognized them partly is because price seems to bounce between the lines really well, which is cool. And it's a series of channels, which is neat. But I have a particular unique way of doing these. A particular method. It's really quite remarkable. Every time I do it, I surprise myself. And if you're surprising yourself and you're the one doing the thing, then it should be pretty surprising to everybody. Just how amazing they fit in. I've got this method. It's an incredible method. It's something that I've discovered myself, actually. If you ever see anybody else doing it on the internet, you know that they're copying me. I've probably taught them how to trade. I've taught thousands of people how to trade that are on YouTube, by the way. But they're all skanks. I extended it a little bit here as well, the dots, because I wanted to see. This actually starts the way that I drew this in. The lines that I chose from it actually start all the way over here, back in March. But because of the way that the tool works, it doesn't actually cover up those other bits. So after I'd drawn it in and seen that it was a perfect fit, I wanted to see if it actually was a perfect fit for this entire chunk of price action as well, and it was, which was pretty neat. So I decided then at that point that I would definitely keep it and tell everybody about things on the show. It makes the analysis for Bitcoin quite easy actually today, and that's really useful. It's one of the useful things about this method, is it makes your life so easy. And I'll sum that up right now by saying if prices were to break below 104,000, it's extremely likely they go to 101,000. We get a little bit of volatility around those areas, around that area. Sure. What are we expecting? Well, this year's got a high, higher low, higher high, sort of along the way here. It's a bit of an uptrend from the bigger perspective. Of course, this could be a bear flag on the way down. Just jump up to something like 3 hours, so you can see this overall thing could form a head and shoulders. We see the prices dropping back down to 102, 101,000. Then they're going back into that purple box over there, right? So then you would have, this is your left shoulder, that is your head, and that is your right shoulder. So one of the things that you should do when you're doing technical analysis, and you might have heard this phrase like "when in doubt, zoom out," or other stupid, meaningless phrases like that, which you think will give you the keys to how to trade well, but you can't apply them in practice. Well, here is a way of practically doing that. Look at the current price action that you're in. Identify if it's a trend up or trend down, and then zoom out and see that particular trend up and down. How does it fit into the larger context? Is it part of a pattern overall? And then what you'll have done is you'll have taken its basic trend analysis and a broader term, bigger time frame chart pattern analysis and combined the two of them together, which means you've got confluence built in there. For us in this situation, it makes that purple line like a neckline of a head and shoulders, and it would allow us to give us a measured move so we would know where the targets would possibly be. In fact, the target from that could be as low as like 93,000 when you see the size of the head and shoulders up here, and when you look over to the left and see the very low liquidity, the way that went up like Jack and the Beanstalk, straight up. When that sort of thing happens, it leaves very little kind of footholds on the way down for the price action to kind of cling on to and find support and resistance. So it could go all the way right down to there. The measured move off the back of it. Oops, let me get my trend measuring stick, which for me is just scribbling a line on there, which is perfectly valid. This is how you do this. My line may be a bit squiggly, but it's perfect. And you can see that that's totally true. It takes us down to like 94k as a measured move off the back of that. So that's, that's a couple of little bits of things together. Zoom back in again though, and the main kind of story for us just here on the charts is about how this is a bit of an uptrend at the moment, and it could then find support here. Absolutely has done a few times in the past. The next big target would be around about 107,000, and in between you're going to have an awful lot of bigger percentage moves on that longer tail part of the crypto world in altcoins. So the current range for us here is between those two prices. We see prices above 107,000. I spoke about this last week, I think. That's actually the signal for continuation for bullishness. This would be taking out kind of the peak of the right hand shoulder. That's that confluence across time frames. Didn't mention that last week, but this wasn't on there last week, so this is now adding to that. And of course, you take that out, it starts to invalidate that pattern, and you would be looking up towards your prior highs, which is of course part of an overall upward trend, which is what we drew these channels around. So the background sloping up diagonal lines reminds us that when we're zoomed in to a small picture, it was just a reminder that it's part of the overall upward trend. A move back down to 94,000 wouldn't break that overall upward trend necessarily, as we can see here, because we just have to go to a larger time frame, and that becomes part of the just normal structure. But it certainly would be a major issue, right? Because it'd be taking out this prior high or low as part of the clear kind of highs and lows of this trend overall, right? So taking that purple box out has a cascade of problems, so you definitely don't want to see it happening if you are bullish. If you're bearish, then great. And if you're sitting on the sidelines looking for price moves below 104 to 101, where there'd probably be a lot of support currently, would make sense sitting on your thumbs again until it got below the 100,000 to carry that move down to 94. It would minimize your risk trading, right? Risk management is a case of not just where you put your stop loss, but how you manage your process throughout. It's about managing through it. This would actually be two trades. Yeah, two separate trades. It would need to be, if you thought this was a head and shoulders pattern, trading within a pattern is a risky waste of time. It doesn't make sense. It's not a logical way to do things. If, however, you identify there is a pattern and you're making a smaller trade for some other reason that takes you to the pivot point, neckline, breakout line, whatever you want to call it, of that chart pattern, then you've got two trade setups. Zooming out can cause a little bit of confusion in people's heads where they actually mix together different time frames. Remember, I have a tip. I tell it to all traders, is trade the time frame you're trading. And that seems like a meaningless series of words, but it's not. If you were looking at that chart on the 1 hour for that move between the range of the channels, for example, then you're trading this time frame. If, however, you get that mixed up and you start looking to trade that head and shoulders pattern from here, you're trading the 3-4 higher, the higher time frames, 3-4 hours at least, looking at the 1 hour, telling yourself that you're getting a bigger move because of this amazing trade setup you found. And it's completely wrong. You've actually found two different trade setups. The confluence is not about the target for the head and shoulders, it's about the neckline, which is a support confluence, not a bearish confluence. So if you mix those together, you're mixing a bullish and a bearish setup together. So it's even worse. And that would be really ugly, stupid trading. And you wouldn't do that because you're not a moron. Am I right? Maybe I'm wrong though. You may well be a moron. You might be a moron, right? And that's actually kind of what we're here to talk about today. It's personality. Personality as a trader, right? What is your personality as a trader? How even do you know what your personality as a trader even is? How does it work? What is personality as a trader? You could say, in many ways, the question that we're asking today is, who are you? And who are you? Who even are you? What's the chat? Do you know who you are? Because I bet you don't. I really that might seem insulting to people. I'm a trader coach and I've coached thousands of traders, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of traders. And this concept is one that people know going in. So if you're a new trader watching this right now, you'll be thinking to yourself, oh, I've heard this before. I have to match my personality with my trading style. That's what I have to do. It's the only way to be successful as a trader. If you're an experienced trader and you're not yet successful, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I've learned how to do risk management, I've learned technical analysis, I've learned all this stuff that's really good, and I've got tons of experience, I can read charts quite well. But for some reason, I'm still not quite profitable as a trader. And I know that I need to match my personality. And you start to come back round to asking yourself, have you truly matched and got that integrity between your trading style, your actions, what you do as a person, and who you are as a person? We know that there's a question in the world about who you are. And a lot of people like to say, for basic kind of normal world, that you are what you do. Your actions, behaviors. That it's your behaviors and your actions that actually define who you are as a person. That's what a lot of people will tell you. And, in many ways, they're not wrong. right? In many ways, they're not wrong. It's kind of a little bit of a neat little thing to tell ourselves that we simply are what we're doing. Except you know that in trading, what you do is the activity of trading, right? You know that. And you know to be successful, you have to marry that activity and how you do it with your personality. So, by definition, what you do isn't actually just your personality necessarily. And then it leaves you in a trap where you can't decide how to move forward. This is a trap that affects new traders who are thinking ahead just as much as it affects experienced traders. Personality. Who are you? What is your personality? Do you know yourself? Now, anybody who's seen philosophy over the last 1,000 years knows that the honest man will say no to that question, typically speaking, right? Somebody who's not thought about it yet and got the answer doesn't know who they are, and it becomes like a really big, wide thing, right? It does, doesn't it? Going back for thousands of years, people have been thinking about this, trying to figure it out. The greatest minds on planet Earth have spent many years thinking about it, and it allows others to stand on the shoulders of their giantness, only to not actually have a neat, simple answer for you. Well, I've got news for you, buddy. It's a lot simpler than you think. I can solve that for you today, and you'll be a better trader today as a result of my simple magic wand system to help figure that out, which is brilliant. How do you get to that? How do you get to that level? How do we get to that level? Well, listen to me. I'll help you. I'll help you. Now, a lot of people do know who they are to begin with out of the box, and they're very lucky people. Very lucky people. And a lot of people know who they are kind of out of the box because they've never really had much personality growth. And I don't mean that in a really judgmental way. I don't. I just mean to say there's a lot of people out there who are kind of, you know, nothing special. And they're fine with that. And that's okay. And I'm not trying to change who anybody is, you know. Some people were born with sort of no personality at all. I'd say that is everybody in the world, all babies. I think it's fair to say pretty much all babies have got like a baby personality. They cry a lot, but they don't have like adult human being personalities yet. And that grows over time. And then the way to get there in the modern day, the modern world, is fraught with all sorts of technology and confusing things and lessons that the world tries to give you that are maybe not necessarily right and everything else. So it's totally understandable. If people found it difficult 2,000 years to work out what they were, when, you know, all they had to do was like walk around following some sheep, then it's really difficult to figure out who you are living this modern world in the rat race. Got a poll in there. I'm going to just end the poll here and see, before we start chatting about this, what the results of it were, if that works for me. 72% of people in the audience say they know who they are. It is my audience, right? So there's a good chance that actually is an accurate reflection of this audience. But it's a completely preposterous poll result that 27% of people say they don't know and 72% say they do. In the real world, it's 99.9% of people don't know who they are. It's highly likely that even though this is my audience, and my audience is well-trained, well-educated audience, that the answer in that poll is complete fucking bullshit. Right? Even though it's our audience. It's quite likely. But I'll accept it. Before we get into my main talk for the day and actually go through the chat bit personality, let's just take a quick look at the news and see this week's news. Gives us a few more minutes as well, let people tune in who haven't tuned in, and they get to hear the kind of the lesson of today. This is the news story I wanted to share. Well, actually, we'll start with this one: the abominable bill man. The abominable bill man. Did you see what Elon Musk said on Twitter yesterday? I'll read it out. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. That's what he said. That's the exact tone that he used in the tweet. I of course have the blue badge upgrade on Twitter, so I get to hear the tone. You don't have that because you've not got a blue badge. That's what that is. Anyway, this whole thing with the big beautiful bill is kind of trundling along. It's moving along slowly in the United States compared to a lot of the executive orders that have happened recently, where you kind of what you see is Trump waking up in the morning, and then by lunchtime he's kind of figured out a couple of things that he might do, might not do. By evening time, he's thinking about telling somebody the idea, and then it gets to around about 4 o'clock in the morning, and bleh, it happens when you least expect it. It's not one of those ones. It's one of the ones that has to go through Congress and the Senate and all that old-fashioned government stuff that you used to do. Remember back how it used to work. It's like that. So it's taken a while, isn't it? Like it's been like a week already. Anyway, that's the deal, right? Elon is not happy with it, which is really unusual. So on the day that he was leaving the office, because he had a government job there, and he no longer has the government job. He's not doing that government job anymore. He's no longer working for the United States government. He's just a regular South African again, just run-of-the-mill South African. He left that kind of burning bridges on the way out the door. Very interesting the way the tone as well that he used in that. Like I read out the tone for you. It's very kind of interesting, very distressed. We also have this great news that Jimmy posted about how they brought back the ball in Edinburgh. Here's a photograph of it. Well worth reading that bit of news. It's kind of cultural and fun. It's not to do with markets though, so I'll not put it out here on the show. And then there's this news here about Meta, and they bought a nuclear power plant for 20 years. That's the way that you talk to Generation Z or whatever it is, the one, the TikTok generation. That's how you talk to them. The truth is that they've bought the output from the nuclear power plant for 20 years, but that's too many words, and a 21-year-old gets bored listening to a sentence that long. So instead of saying Meta have bought all the output from a power station for 20 years, you have to say they bought the power station. But did they buy the power station? No, they didn't buy the power station. Is it more like renting the power station? Yes. But rent is not a power word, and buy is. And we're talking to 21-year-olds here. So Meta buys a nuclear power plant for 20 years. That's the main headline. And I used that headline that you're seeing everywhere around and added my own bit, Meta's Meta-lecky, because this is what this story is actually about. And if we get right down to the very, very kind of bottom of it, you can see some of my summary here is that it's basically saying that Meta have got this thing which you could make it's analogous to an options contract on this power output. Now they have bought all the power output, right? So it's not the same as just paying a premium for an option, but it has all of these variables and spin-off things. Super interesting. Now the news is telling you that they bought it to power their AI, except they didn't. That's not the case. It's physically impossible for that to be the case. It's just that the news that's written out by human beings writing the news, they're not very smart, right? So they haven't figured that out. I figured it out. I told you all the reasons why it's happening, and then wrote this amazing article that explains it all in great detail. It's one of the most interesting things that's happening in the world right now, right? With about clear airspace between it and everything else of about 10 miles, right? Very interesting thing. A Facebook, right? That's what Meta is. Facebook that didn't exist whenever I was born. I remember whenever it rolled out, I signed up to Facebook with my uni email address because you had to have a uni email address to join Facebook when I joined it. You had to, or else you weren't allowed to join it. I must have been within the first couple 100 million members of the thing. Definitely. And now every single person on planet Earth is there, and they own a nuclear power plant. The other amazing thing about this is the amount of electricity that power plant that they've bought puts out. Can you guess how much? To put it into context, it's more than the entire residential, business, commercial, everything population of San Francisco. More than San Francisco uses from that one power plant, and they're taking all of it for themselves. Here's another amazing thing. They already have that much. Yeah, they already have that much. It's over 1,000 megawatts per hour, which is a meaningless thing. But to put that into context, Facebook already owns more electricity than the entire central belt of Scotland. More electricity than 25% of Denmark. That's what it owns right now. And with this nuclear power plant deal, it goes to 50% of Denmark. Yeah, that's right. 2/3 of Ireland's electricity. Yeah. Double Baltimore's. Double it. More than. It's actually more like triple Baltimore's electricity. Amazing. For a company that didn't exist 20 something years ago. Big news. Okay, and there's plenty of other news out there. Amazing stuff, like from Banana Fridge posting about the US wanting big, beautiful trade deals. Good chat in there. And then a great little article in here from TradeSpot about AI on trial. Amazing stuff, actually, when you think about the way the world has changed. Artificial intelligence may be eating the world, but without trust, it will choke. A bit off too much earth than I could chew. Papa GPT, please give me an AI Heimlich maneuver thing. And traders and investors can expect a split between audited versus unaudited models. This is the start of it, folks. It's the start of it. It's happening quicker than crypto is too, because AI is so big. Amazing. Let me just check in with the chat and see how everybody's getting on. Are you alive in chat? Are you live persons? I got a couple of big donos which I should have read out at the time. One from Jay Hunter, for instance. Just want to thank Rocky and Jamie for their hard work and dedication to the YouTube, and especially Rocky Outcrop Discord community. That's where we're reading that news right now. Join it. It's free to join, by the way. You could read all this news that I'm putting out for free. For example, it's not just news. That's the boring part of the Discord. All the really fun parts are in there too. You can join it for free. Go to https://discord discord.gg/Rocky Outcrop, all one word. And it is an automatic invite that brings you into the Discord. It's great, super good. You get there for free. There's a premium option too for people who are like serious. I'd love to hear your update on LPSN. Thanks very much. And you know what, buddy? You just bought the goal. You bought the goal, pal. You bought the goal. We also had Disco Biscuits. Could we do LPSN TA anyway? No sweat if not. I'm loving it. I'm loving the people just buying the poll, or the goal, buying the goal. Jay Hunter, you bought the goal. So did Disco Biscuits. Well done. Legends. Look at that. Who's number 2? Lisa, you're number 2 currently. Way, doing good. Who's my number 1 right now? Let me just find number 1. Number 1 was Lisa. Johnny plays. Oh, Rocky Bobby lost it. You lost it. You dropped to number 2. Somebody else took number 1. Rocky Bobby, hard lines. Good news for all Americans today. The IRS open source direct file on GitHub. Hopefully someone picks up to make it easy for the average taxpayer to get and still use it. So that's cool. Good news there as well, coming from I'm Not a Cat. Katie says you won't be able to buy an air conditioner or heat your house or buy a gasoline car, but for Meta it's full steam ahead. Literally, with that nuclear power plant, absolutely. Irradiated steam. I love it. It's my favourite type. It's the best. Okay, so what we're doing here today, right? Let's get back to it. Personality. I wrote this out. Last night. That's it last night. I'm just gonna read it out to you if you don't mind. I don't ever use scripts, right? I don't. But I mean, I wrote this out because I thought about it. Personality as a trader. How do you even work it out? Who are you? Who am I? Is this the greatest, deepest philosophical question you struggle with as a trader? Are you a new trader who knows you need to fit your trading style to your personality, or an experienced trader still trying to figure it out, become profitable, who wonders if this is the problem? By the way, spoiler alert, yes, it's the problem. And it's such a big question. Such a big, difficult thing to do, isn't it? Truth is, the answer is much, much easier than you'd expect it to be. And let me tell you this. Deep down, where that personality that you're looking for is hidden, exists a truth inside of you that you know is there already. That's right, I'm talking to you. Don't feel too uncomfortable, but this is it. This is the truth. I'm talking to you here. You know, this is landing. I know it is. Deep down where that personality is hiding inside you that you're looking for to try and figure out what it is, figure out what your personality is. Deep down inside you where that's hiding exists a hidden truth that you know is there already. But the fact that you can't face it is why you struggle with this question at all. Deep, isn't it? And it's true. The fact that you can't face that question, deep down there where you're looking for the personality, right beside the personality inside you, where it says, hello, this is my personality, there's this truth. And if you were to look at that personality, you'd see that truth as well, and that truth scares the shit out of you, and you're not willing to do it. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah? If you were to ask 100 traders what their biggest challenge is in trading, you may well find that this is the number one thing that they circle back to over time. We know that discipline is important. We know that good analysis is important. We know that making good decisions is important. And by heck, you've been working really hard on those, and you've mostly got that all nailed down. And I have to say, well done to you for that, because that's a great achievement. Well done, fantastic. It really actually is most of the job, is actually doing all that other stuff. This little kind of hidden truth is all you need to square that circle, right? But what those things are easy traits or attributes to augment to ourselves. They're skills more than some actual genuine description of our personality. Okay? That core nebulous thing which you're destined to one day marry with a trading style and unlock success. But how to see ourselves? If only we had some magic mirror to hold up to ourselves. Am I right? Mirror, mirror on the wall, what trading personality is my best fit? Please tell me. Because I am starting to wonder if I know who I am at all. Having tried so many styles and not got a gel with my personality. It's not quite as kind of pithy as what the Queen was asking in Snow White to her magic mirror. But it's pretty much word for word the question that you'd probably would end. I watched TV shows. I admit it. I admit I did. I watched TV as a child. I turned my eyes square, even though I'd been warned by my mum. I'd see these heroes on the screen. I had all the usual ones for a wee lad in Scotland. I thought the He-Man, the cartoon character, and John Collins, the Celtic football player, and Scotland forward, Were pretty cool. Yeah. I admired a guy on the soap operas. I admired a guy on the soap operas. Where is it? Particularly admired a guy on the soap operas Neighbours, right? That came on at 5:30 p.m. It was the last thing before the news, and everybody growing up in the UK in the 1990s and 80s and noughties probably as well watched were fans of Neighbours, right? We were all fans of Neighbours because after Neighbours is when TV got boring all night. It was the last thing to watch, right? Before the news came on and everything just went to crap for kids. So every kid in the UK in the 80s and 90s were big Neighbours fans for the same reason. This guy had a cool haircut and got all the girls. So I looked up to him, right? And I thought to myself, oh, he had a cool car as well. That was cool. Um, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be like those guys when I'm older. Uh, you know what it was like as a kid, right? You're thinking all the way that you're up to when you're an adult, some sort of thing along the lines of, am I cool enough, or do I need to try being more like this or that to get the girl to like me, or the bully at school to be a pal and not an enemy? We all think these things. We actually scrutinize them and obsess over them when we're kids. All of it, all humans do, as we're developing our personalities. Actually, as well, on this same topic, I'm quite lucky to have an older brother, and actually an older brother as well, because when you've got older siblings, they help an awful lot with these questions, right? They've had to go through it too, and they tell you, what their experience was as a kid. You talk about it with people directly, openly, about personality. You don't necessarily know that's what you're doing when you're a kid, but you do. And older brothers and sisters are really, really helpful for this exact thing. Get you through to primary five, or when you're 7 years old or whatever, and with a head start compared to all the single only first oldest child. It's why the oldest children out there have got that sort of chip on their shoulder about how, oh, I had to carve the path myself, and they look down on their younger siblings like, you had it so easy. I told you when you were 6 years old that if you wore your pants on top of your trousers to school, kids would make fun of you. So I'm the. It's true though. That's how older siblings think. They think they're awesome. They are awesome for that reason. In fact, so that's the thing. They are. We all do it. You would think for days. I would think for days or weeks. Or what would be the best way to ask a girl out to the school dance? And eventually, I would try it. Yeah. Maybe not all of you did, but most of you did. Most of you eventually worked up the courage to do the thing. Most of you did. You eventually worked up the courage to do it. And maybe even it worked for you. It didn't work for me the first time. I remember it didn't work for me. God, and I wouldn't even go near her today. Can you imagine that? God, she missed out. She should have jumped on the chance to get with 10-year-old me. That would have been the gravy ticket for her. But, she missed out. But I did. I worried about it, thought about it for ages. How am I going to do this? And then I did it. And it didn't work. But hey, when you're doing that process, right? You think, I can do this. I can do it. I can at least try to be that person. I can try it, and find out if it'll work. I can do it. I can be that guy. You might as well call me He-Man now and get on with it because I'm so cool already. That's what you get to thinking. I wanted to be someone, I tried it. I could do it, so I kept doing it. That's the thing. I could do it. I could ask the girl. Whether she said yes or not, it's a different thing. But I could at least ask the girl. So I did it the next time the dance came along. It was a heck of a lot easier the second time around. And I was more successful. Yeah. It's who I am. It's who I am now. I'm the type of person who would do that. Me nowadays. I would go into that primary school and no, I wouldn't go into what? Sorry, that doesn't make sense. You get what I was trying to say though. When I tried to do something that I couldn't do, yeah, I stopped. and I don't do those things anymore. I try, you try, and we've experienced this. You try and do certain things in life, and you can't actually do them. You try it again, you try it again, you can't actually do it, and you stop doing it because it ain't working for you. It's just not who you are. Eh? And I don't do those things anymore. What would that be? For example, maybe for example, when I had a bit of a tough time in school, somebody gave me a problem, I'd punch them in the face without even thinking about it. There you go. How do you like them apples? That's what I'd be thinking. It didn't really work for me. And it turns out I'm not the type of guy that just punches people in the face at the drop of a hat. It's really not who I am. But when you're in high school and there's some kid the year above giving you a hassle, you try it and you see how it works for you. And there are some people out there who keep doing that, to be fair. Um, yeah, right. So I tried the things, the ones that worked, I stuck with, and they became who I am. The ones that didn't work, I let them go, and they became who I'm not. Together, these make up my so called personality, which of course is a chosen personality at any given time based on the context. When I was at the Queen's garden party, she's dead now, the poor Queen, but when she was alive, the Queen of England and Scotland and Australia and Canada, some other places, she had these garden parties. You'd very exclusive, and only the best people in town would be invited. You'd have to put on all your fancy clothes, and you'd go down. You'd eat these really narrow cucumber sandwiches, and she'd come out and she'd say hello to people, and everybody around would be like, "Oh, amazing! This is amazing!" and that, right? It's extremely exclusive and very cool, and I went to it. But when I went to it, right, I didn't exactly in that moment take out my John Collins personality traits and kick a ball into the top corner. Or my Rick Lacey from Neighbours coolness, which, to be fair, is only a type of coolness that an 8-year-old would actually aspire to be. But at that point, as an adult, fully developed personality, right, I chose to live like and be the respectful, formal version of me at the Queen's garden party, not the one kicking balls into the top corner, not the one who's He-Man, defender of the universe. You know, I wasn't battling Skeletor down there, and it wasn't like Rick Alessi from Natalie Imbrugula's boyfriend. By the way, if you're wondering who that character is, this was Natalie Imbrugula's boyfriend. That's a reasonable person for an 8-year-old kid to aspire to be, I tell you. And many people would agree. But I didn't take that personality out and, kick it at the Queen's face. I was a different version of me. I certainly wasn't like the type of person who is like me at a nightclub in Ibiza, right? I was not that version of me at the Queen's garden party. I didn't have that personality in that moment. We choose who we are. That is our personality. We choose something we want to be: great at telling stories, more disciplined, more patient, more assertive, whatever it is. And then we try it. And we get there. And we become that person. Or maybe we never become that person. For example, assertiveness. A lot of people out there in the world, every single human being, I think, is born as a baby. Pretty sure that's the way it works. And none of them are very assertive. None of them are. Adults, some of them are. Some of them are very assertive. Some of them are mega meek. Mega, mega, mega meek. And the biggest differentiator between the meek personality and the assertive personality is that the assertive personality tried being assertive. And then they kept trying it. A lot of meek personalities out there did try being assertive, and it didn't work for them, and they stopped doing it. And fair enough. It's totally fine. There isn't actually a better. One isn't actually better than the other. It's a complete fantastical thing that people like to make up, because we all like to feel good about ourselves. But the truth is, it's no better to be assertive than it is to be meek. It's no better or worse. It's just a choice that we make that people will tell us is our personality. If you see something that you would like to be and you try it and it works and you keep doing it, that's how you develop your personality. We actually all know this because this is the life that we've all lived. There's a catch though. You have to be able to maintain it, right? You have to be able to maintain it. You know what that's like too. You've been in a job, your new job, you go in with an attitude, and I'm going to be like this here. And then, like a month later, you're back to your old habits. You've been fired, shit canned. You know, you couldn't maintain that personality. That's not a story that applies to everybody, but that's the basic point. You choose one, and if you can maintain it, then that's who you actually are. And if you can't, then that's who you actually are. The truth that you have, that I was saying, it's kind of making it scary. I wanted to get people's attention. The truth that you have inside you is actually that knowledge. And it is a bit scary, right? It's a bit scary because you have to think back to those times that you asked that girl out when you were 9 years old and she told you no and you thought the world had shattered. You have to think back to the times whenever you went into the job and you tried doing whatever and your boss told you that you were acting like a fanny and you stopped doing it and you grew up. Nobody wants to look at that stuff. But that's the knowledge, that's the truth that you have inside you, that whatever personality that you say is just purely what you were born with, which is a massive load of bullshit that people like to spread around the world, that you're born with some personality. What the biggest load of horse shit I've ever heard. And you know it is. Everybody knows it is. It's just an easy way to forget, right? The reason why you say that is it's an easy way to forget all the times that you had to try. Because those are painful times, right? Difficult times. Even when it went well, it was difficult. You had to, and you had, and you know, it's easier to just forget that and to pretend that you were born with this innate personality. It's just who you are. And you haven't made this choice to be the person you are. By the way, if you're a dickhead, you made the choice to be a dickhead, right? And if you're a nice person, you made the choice to be a nice person. Yeah? Which is why prisons and stuff exist. Nobody just says, oh, you know, Dave did run over the guy's cat. Like, but it's just who he is. He can't help it. He was born that. No, nobody says that. They say, put that guy in prison and he'll stop doing that. When he gets out, he won't have the personality of a type of guy that runs over cats for fun, right? That's the way the world actually works. But nobody's brave enough when it comes to answering this question about how to be a better trader to actually look at the truth, especially when it comes to being a better trader, because it involves looking back at times when you lost money and you felt like a pathetic bag of shit. So you're not going to do it. The truth is, you're scared to do it, but you have the answer right there inside of you. But also, there's a process that you went through to get to there in the first place, which actually makes all this way easier. So you don't want to do it because it involves forgetting the time the girl said no to you, forgetting the bad job interviews, forgetting the time that you were hungover at a wedding and made an arse of yourself. You know, whatever it was, that might have been a personal growth moment. Personal growth moments. You know what they are? They're the massive character forming parts of your life. You know that. And then somebody maybe saw you doing that and thought to themselves, I know that Sheila doesn't care about the ceramic pig that Bob just broke. So I could tell Bob not to do all that. But then they don't because they look and they think, that's a real character growth moment for them. I'm not going to interrupt it, even though that I know that Sheila doesn't care about the ceramic pig. That happens too. That's called being a parent. And you see parents doing that all the time. All of those things added together, right, are who you are. But all of those things were difficult to achieve. So you don't like looking at them. You prefer to just think that there's some nebulous sack of personality traits that requires a magic mirror to find out who it is. And therefore, you think you need a magic solution to figure out how to be a good trader. Because you know the chain, you need to know who you are, you need to match that with a trading style, and then you'll be a good trader. And you think, I don't know who I am, I can't possibly figure out, I need a magic mirror to figure it out. And the truth is, it's because you're not willing to look at all the personality, character growth elements that you've had in your life, in your own life, the one that you're the star of the movie in. You don't even want to look back at it. You're 45 minutes into the 90-minute movie and you've forgotten the first 20, and you're going to spend the next 45 minutes scratching your head going, how do I remember? Because you're unwilling to hit the rewind button and just check it out and see what happened to yourself. That's the truth. But you don't have to do all the scary stuff, right? This is me just reminding you about what personality is, right? It gets dead easy in terms of becoming a good trader. Really easy, and I'm going to make that really simple for you. So stick with it for just a minute longer. Because I have a magic solution for you. You identify what you want, and then you try it. And if you can maintain it, and therefore you're doing what you want, then, buddy, you're being yourself in that moment. Can you be someone else? Yes, almost certainly. Who you are is who you choose to be. We all have a million different versions of ourselves. They're all different versions of our personality. In any given moment, we choose to adopt one of those versions, and then we maintain it. And the longer we maintain it, the more it becomes who you are, as perceived by other people. But you're just you. And you're not a sack of nebulous personality traits. You're conscious decisions that you're making every single day. Whether that decision is to be a good or a bad person. Which is why good people look at bad people with very little or no sympathy. Because we all know that this is true. All of us know that this is true. All of us do. The question is, if you can maintain it, and if you can't, then that isn't who you are, right? If you can maintain it, it's who you are. If you can't, it's not who you are. And it never really was. And you need to try something else that you want. There's a key part here which people might be overlooking. I'll make it really explicit. I didn't in my script here. What you want, okay? I started here with a story about how I looked up to He-Man, a football player, and a character from a soap opera, to give you 3 examples of ways that an 8-year-old me wanted to be like somebody and then tried doing it. It's what you want. I didn't look up to 3 people who I didn't want to be and thought, oh, I'll try being like them. And if you ever did that in your life, then just undo that, right? Because that was a stupid decision. And that's how you do it. So be it scalping, swing trading, trend, momentum, long side, short side, large size, small size, single entry, staggered entries, hard stop, soft stop, price action, pricing volume, momentum indicators, candlestick patterns, supply and demand, a mix and match of any of those or the million other ways that you can come up with a style of trading, because those things that I was just saying there, either on their own or combined with other things, are styles of trading. Right? And there's millions of combinations that you could put together. There's some very easy broad categories such as scalper and swing trader, intraday, stuff like that. And how do you define whether or not you're actually doing it or not, right? That's what it boils down to. Is the question is, how do you define if you're actually doing that or not? And therefore, if indeed that is your personality as a trader. Because here's the revelation for you, and all the people who are stuck, who can't make this magical step forward in their trading career, even though it feels to somebody who's got there already, like communicating about it is equivalent to banging your head against a wall. This is it. You just don't seem to realize that the choices that you make are your personality. They always have been in all of your life, ever since you were a kid. You like to think of them as being innate and natural because you don't want to look at the personality, the personal growth moments or the trauma events that led to you being a bit of a dick, whatever it is. You don't want to look at them. You're scared to look at them. So you just don't. And it's the same with trading. And you don't want to look back at your shitty bass trades that went wrong or the ones that went really well. You don't even look at any of it because all of it involves a process of looking at yourself and you're scared to do it. And that's the truth of it. But the truth of it is that it isn't just some nebulous big sack of crap. Instead, it's choices that you actively make. And you actively make those choices every day anyway. So applying it to your trading is actually really straightforward and simple. But to do it, you need to be able to know that you're actually doing that style and whether or not it's working for you and if you can stick with it. And if you can, then that is your personality as a trader. And that is what that means to do that marrying of personality and trading style, is to look at what you want, to define what that is, and to see if you can stick doing it. Defining what it is that you want is the biggest part of discovering what type of trader you are. Because to do that, you need one thing, and this is where the magic meets the road. What you need is rules. RULES. Rules is actually what you need. That's actually what's going wrong with your trading. You get rules for your trading. This will make the process of defining your personality and trading style blend specific to you and convert abstract theory into lived reality. So, it's a very good thing that I have a video on that topic of rules, especially with a view to becoming the best personality and trading style fit that you can, that lays it all out in a really pragmatic guide for you with reams of information that I researched for weeks before making the video. It's amazing, top quality, best in class for what that information is. You want that information? I've got it in that video. It's definitely best in class. And you should watch that video next, right? You should watch that video next, and it's in my members only playlist. But if this video here gets 200 likes, I'll make it public. So it's all you have to do. If you want that video for free, just hit like that. The bottom line here is that personality is all choice, and it always has been. And there's no mystery to it, and all the mystery to it is just crap that people put out there because every single human being doesn't want to look at the big mess that their personal growth moments were. So every adult has a conspiracy that we all perpetuate with each other, that we like to pretend that personality is innate and unique and different to every person. But in actual fact, it's nothing like that. It's a choice, and we made those choices the entire time that we were growing up as kids, and we remember it, and we remember our parents encouraging us to do just that. And every single parent that exists in the world knows that this is a fact because they're trying to help influence the personality that their kid will have by doing things like encouraging them to be confident, encourage them to go out there and try, put them inside some sports club and some dance club, or giving them a singing lesson, or giving them a book to read and seeing if they like it, seeing a computer game and seeing if they like it, giving them things and opportunities to try, and when they try them, they see if they like them, if they can stick with them, and then so often they don't. So the parents then push them back into it again and say, try it again. And then they still don't like it, and they push them back in again and say, try it again. You know what? The kid then turns around and says, I'm good at this. I like this. And then 20 years later, it becomes who they are, apparently. And it's about there's a personality. Oh, you're such an adventurous type. You really love going and climbing up mountains and taking sailboats out on rough weather. That's just your personality. You were just born like that. What? That's ridiculous. That same person went out up the hill in the cold weather and hated it for ages. And then they went home and they said, I'm not going back, Mum. And then their mum says, you're going back. I paid for that. And then forces them back. That's what actually happened. And then later on, their personality exists. And then they meet some girl at uni. The girl says, you're so adventurous. And they're like, yeah, I was born that way. They don't say, yeah, every time I complained when I was a kid about how I hated cold weather, my dad would literally punch me in the face. And that's why I have this personality. They don't like looking at that, you see, because it's a big, scary, horrible personal growth moment. You know what I'm saying is true. You know that this is the truth. You know it is, right? Bottom line is, right, personality is a choice. It always has been. When you're a kid, some of those choices are made for you. When you're an adult, you make those choices yourself. The framework to get all this to fit is actually very pragmatic. It's achieved via the imposition of rules on ourselves. This is how it works with trading specifically. So it's not a life lesson for every human being in the entire world, but it is a trading lesson that works for every human being looking to fit personality and trading style. I promised people LPSN analysis, so I better get on with it. We're an hour into the show today. It will be a case of getting through this next section without too many delays, because we're run over time. Let me know in the chat box if you thought that was helpful. I know that it was, though, right? So instead, when I say let me know in the chat box if you thought that was helpful, what I'm actually saying is I'm a human being that performs better when I get good feedback. But I use the euphemism of let me know if that was good information in the chat box because it protects my personality. Do you see? So typically, I would choose not to expose my need for feedback like a human being. And I would choose to be this robot presenter who's just like, I'm so amazing. Tell me if you thought that landed for you. But it's a euphemism for me asking for feedback. And that's a choice I make consciously for my personality's sake. And this is an example which applies ubiquitously for everybody. Everybody does this. It's what it is to be a human being. So let's do this technical analysis that we came here to do. Okay, that's a bit of a mess. Let's see if we can make this slightly messy. Basic points here on this, by the way, are that the thing which I find important in the analysis here was this downward trend line, which was broken. And then afterwards, the price came back down to retest and has found some support. Now, as every day and every week goes by, we have this incredible advantage of being people who are involved and invested in this stock already. In that time moving by means that we get closer and closer to things like the earnings reports coming out, where at some point, somewhere along the way, and I'm not saying that we need to study the minutiae of every earnings report in great detail necessarily, but we will. I mean, that's what we do. But I'm not saying that that's what we need to do. That's why earnings reports are so great. Oh yeah, I'm a chump that loves earnings reports. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, because most of them are crap, what I'm saying is, for most companies all the time, that when any company is on a long-term downward decline and is communicating with their shareholders about the efforts and endeavors that they're doing in order to arrest that decline, eventually it gets to the point where the decline is arrested and they tell people, we've never heard that from GameStop. Why? Well, if you rewind 30 seconds, you'll get the answer. With regards to this, we're going to hear it fairly soon, which is cool. So that's one of the things I wanted to point out today, that we're looking to, can we get to the point where we've had the fundamental change of the trajectory of the business, and at some point this year we'll get that, and at some point we'll have it be historical. And between those two earnings calls, the one where they're living the moment where they've seen the turnaround happen, they may or they may not tell us that it has happened at that point. They will be giving us the information for in arrears, right? Because earnings calls happen where you look 3 months back in the past. So if we're listening to them in this summertime talking about earnings, they're talking about what happened back in spring, and so on. Winter to spring is talked about in summer. Autumn talks about spring to summer. Winter talks about, that's the way that it works in arrears. But they're living that moment at the time. So often in earnings calls, you'll hear somebody saying something like, yes, and in fact, we're really looking strong for our next call. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we've already outpaced ourselves for Q1 and we're 1 month into Q3. That type of thing. That happens at times, right? And then somebody else in the room is sitting there going, oh, stop talking to the person who's speaking. They get off the call at the end and they say, that was a really great call. And they say, yeah, it was. Apart from the time when you gave away all that information, you big fucking moron. So like that's the conversation that happens behind the scenes in the company. But we listen for these things in earnings calls, and sometimes it's done deliberately, sometimes it's done in a sort of casual way. Mostly though, it's respect for shareholders. Their job is to help the shareholders, and their earnings calls are communication with shareholders, and it's all about respect for shareholders. Not that a company who doesn't talk on earnings calls necessarily disrespects their shareholders. Not to say that necessarily, but that's what it stinks of. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, live person talk a lot on their earnings calls, and we get great information from them. And at some point this year, with the turnaround plan, there'll be a point when somebody is saying on an earnings call one of the two things: either historically, look, we turned this corner and it's now in the records, and what we'll see going forwards is this improvement, yada yada. Or they say, this is the last time that we're in this period where we've got this decline. So I expect, and I would be listening out for either Sabino or Collins to say this. I think it's the sort of thing that Sabino would hint at, and then Collins would lay up, and then Collins would come in and hit the home run with, in terms of that particular comment on an earnings call. Because what you'd see is him saying all this soft qualitative stuff about the company, Sabino at the start, and then they'd pass it over to John Collins, who would say, yes, and as Sabino was talking about, or as John was talking about there, we have seen this, and it does seem that now we will be expecting a stability in the next earnings call or whatever, and then what that means is that it will translate, and everybody listening will hear it and say, they've finally ended the churn. We've got to the end of that 18-month process. We're now looking at balance, about no loss in earnings, and also not necessarily an incline, because there'll be that period where we're still losing some, but it matches up with the amount that we're bringing in, and it's at balance. And then and we anticipate to close out Q4, we'll actually have this, and they'll talk about this positive thing, give a kind of soft forward guidance, and that'll happen this year. I reckon it's due to, and so I just wanted to say that there as part of this. So one of the advantages that we have over time, as we look back at time and all this price declining during this, is that we know this story of decline, and we know that at some point it'll change, and the closer you get to that. So in terms of the x-axis, and we know the x-axis doesn't exist, but in terms of the x-axis though, yeah, that's really beneficial every time that goes by. Got a flash here on this time frame. It's the 1 hour time frame down there at 75, 72. I actually think that we had this really nice rise up recently. It was really, really good fun. Came from those low 60s. I know we may may or may not go back down there. In fact, if we do go back down there, we could go all the way down to 61 and test this line, or 60. I think that's totally conceivable. You know, we were at 65 last time. It could be that we get to 61. That'd be great if that was a buying opportunity down there. But actually, what I'm looking at here is this rise that we've had up. This is the 1 hour time frame. If I hover the mouse over here and at the low of this area, then that's actually Monday, the 2nd of June. So then we had this continued push all the way up here into Tuesday. We got highs on Tuesday of 80, and then we've struggled to actually supersede them since. And on the way up, we left a couple of fair value gaps, or we left this fair value gap just here. They had this really odd candle because this is a regular trading hours chart. So the way that this went between the close and open made this kind of odd setup. But anyway, there's not a fair value gap in here. And is there one on the extended trading hours, just to kind of make this point easier on myself? Yeah, that was the gap we talked about in the Discord that did fill. Yeah, so instead, really, I'm looking down here and I'm looking at 72, 73 cents as the ideal area for the buying pressure to kick back in again. Okay, may not get there. I am looking at this fair value gap at 73 up to 73, 74 cents, and saying this is the buying opportunity, and that this zone here is like the other buying opportunity, but it's kind of the risk management opportunity in a sense. That what we want to see is the market coming in and buying it up there, so we don't have to worry about it, and preventing us from breaking this low at 71. Because we break that low at 71, then that is taken out. That's taken us down to the prior low. You'd have taken out one of the lows here. You'd be going back to the prior low, and you'd be asking about whether or not there's any support or whatever down there, and there isn't, because the prices, have very rarely ever been down here. So for me, 72, 73 or 73 or so, right, whatever that fair value gap is, like there. So let's call it 74 cents, because that's where it is. It could be a bit lower to 73, but we'll just call it 74. That's that area that I want to see the prices get to buy it, right? With full awareness that if it drops down below 70, that it could go all the way down to 61, which is the area where I really want to see it to buy it, but I'm not betting on it. If I were a betting man, I would say there's a good chance the prices come down to 74. The prices are currently at 78. Somebody out there watching might be like, "Oh, heartbroken that that I'm not predicting an instant push up towards 80." That's not actually necessarily the case. There has been a nice impulsive move up. It's left a flash on the chart, which is good. It's showing us that indeed there is this real strength and push up. That's fantastic, great. But we did actually take out those highs. No, we didn't. No, we didn't take out those highs. Sorry. I have to edit that. So this flash here probably does get filled the way it probably does, and when it does, the prices probably go and test this area, probably, right? Because that's how price action typically works. So this here's left unresolved, probably gets resolved as a result of this flash getting filled, because it's so close. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump to do that. So it probably will, add the extra, add the dessert to its order whenever it's, Uber Eats driver goes to pick up the food at 75, 72. It's also going to add that, go around the corner to the restaurant, get us this, and get the delivery cost on both of those just for the same price as one order from Uber Eats. That's what it's going to do. That's why I'm looking for that gap, that fair value gap to get filled. However, of course, this has had an impulsive move up. So, we see the prices taken at 81, then this flash here becomes the equivalent in the here and now of a breakaway gap right? Which is a technical term from trading. If you're new to trading, you don't know what it means. Well, I can't spend the time to explain it to you. But what I'm really talking about there is in terms of a kind of psychological shift with regards to momentum in the moment of trading, a breakaway gap. And so if we see prices above 81, then cool. But this is more of an investment hodl for me, so I won't be like trading it between these levels. I'm sitting on my hands patiently, thinking about buying some more at 74. But I will look to see how prices respond around this area. Don't get an instant bounce at 74, pushes down to 71, pushes down, pushes down, pushes down. I'm looking for 61 to buy it. Pushes down to source 71, comes back up again. Maybe I buy it at 74 on the second pass through to go in for a higher high. The result of all of that, of course, around this section would be the formation of some sort of channel. So then if we're in this zone right now and we did do that, how would it look? Well, it would look like this, wouldn't it? Prices operating like this, which is totally normal. Now, if we didn't do that and continued to get this momentum up the way, then how would that look? And we can just quite as easily imagine that too, because this would be our low just there. This would be the other low, and you'd be saying, oh, they've got this tightening move up the way, which is fine, but you'd be looking for a break then of about this type of volatility towards the top side here. I think take that high out. You'd be looking for a move up towards here, which would give us, yeah, straight back into the prior high resistance zone of about 91, 93, if that were to pan out that way. However, I do think we'll probably come back down to 75 and 74 and fill it out. But on the case that we don't, then this is the analysis towards the top side. The target becomes 92, and we're back into trying to challenge to see if we're actually turning this around, right? Because that would make this whole zone what? A higher low. Now, last week I drew in these letters. That's what that mess is on the chart. You've got lower low, lower low, lower high. And the question right now for us all is, does this become a higher low? And if either of those two scenarios play out, we get the higher low. If we come down to an equal low, right, to form a double bottom, I can't be typing that out on a trackpad, a double bot, so you're getting, sorry, trackpad, what can you do? Then cool, right? That's the way that that would work. What did I say earlier on in the coaching thing at the start of the technical analysis? I said, look at it on the small time frame, on the smaller time frame picture, and decide there where the trend is and what the threats and opportunities are for that trend. Zoom back out afterwards and then fit it into what would be an overall larger pattern. And if this was to turn out negatively, that would be that overall larger pattern for that double bottom looking for an equal low. That would be your ideal, coming off and bouncing off of this trend line for a second time. Now, that's already happened though with the bounce off it that we had already, and we're starting to turn around, and we put in a high that did just take out one of the previous higher highs. It's a tentative higher highs, higher low, short-term time frame move up in this zone. I'm looking to see if we can get a buy in around about 73, 74 cents towards the lower end of this channel. If we break it, then I'm sitting on my hands until prices get down to lows. See how the story all fits together? See how this type of analysis makes it really understand the narrative, the play, the momentum, everything all at once. You can see it all, right? And then if we actually push up the way based on some sort of little idea that this is like kind of turned into a bit of a wedge, and we get the move from this wedge, that move from that wedge takes us up towards the prior highs, and so on towards 91. And then this becomes the overall turnaround bottoming situation. If I had moving averages on the chart, by the way, just here, I don't, but I'm really good technical analysis, so I can absolutely imagine them, is that they would be coming down here, there still would be above the price, right? Short-term moving averages are starting to intersect where the price is just now. Yes, of course they are, but we're not really having fully turned this trend around yet. I know that because I'm very experienced at trading. I know what this looks like in terms of this overall bottoming formation, but I know that we have not yet fully got out of the woods just yet with the overall bottoming formation. So we can, if you want me to put on moving averages on my chart or something like that, I absolutely can. Of course, I use the Rocky Outcrop toolkit indicator in every single one of my live shows, and I use the flash a lot, but over the last few months I've not been using it on my live show because I don't like giving away the information for free, right? Because it's a paid indicator. I love it. I use it in all of my own trading, but I don't use it all the time on my shows because I'm not, because it's valuable information, right? And I'm not an idiot. So anyway, if I wanted to put moving averages on here, I just have to tap this button on my Rocky Outcrop toolkit. So I tap that, that's my moving averages. If I want to have a moving average crossover box or choose a different source of that, then I can. Come down here, I can change the colors of moving averages and all that good stuff, right? The current moving averages got here 50 and 200. And as you can see, the moving averages coming down here, they're just above the price. We haven't crossed over them yet on this 1 hour time frame, yada, 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 just as I said. But we can do that analysis next time. Nice to see prices above the 50. We have just had a crappy cross, which we'll get another one of, should we see the prices move up the way. Let's see in terms of 4 hours for those moving averages. Don't want to spend long on that. Yeah. The fact that they're just above our head there, just above our head. 4 hours much more significant than the 1 hour. Let's take a look at the daily. Yep, again, just above our head, not taking it out. It's exactly as I said. Like I say, I'm good at technical analysis. It was not difficult to see that yet. So they're just above our head. The moving average is just above our head, not taking that out properly yet. But that's because, of course, we've not fully got out of the woods yet, which is why all that detail I gave there is how it all works. That's technical analysis, folks, by the way. If you're a trader and you're not successful, 90% of the time, the chances are because you're scared to look at your personality and fit it to a trading type. Now, me calling you out on that is just me being a really brave human being. Because I recognize all these things that have happened in my own trading experience and I'm sharing that with you. So there's no shame, or I'm not getting at you, right? I'm not calling you out or anything. I'm sharing my experience with you. And I know from my own success in life that it's incredibly valuable experience. So while normally I would say to people to leave me comments down there and say if you liked it and whatever else, because I would use some sort of second layer thing so that we can distract each other from our needs as human beings to really address our emotions. I would say something like, let me know if you found it valuable in the comments down below. Now, the fact is, I've lived this life, I've walked this path, and you're walking along behind me, and I know that it's incredibly valuable, so I don't need you to tell me that, right? Instead, do me the favor of showing me a little spot of human kindness by making the choice to have the type of personality that responds in comments below YouTube videos. Make that choice. Don't just say, it's not that type of person. Don't do that. Because that's the bullshit that people tell themselves because they're scared. Instead, do the thing that adults do, where you choose for yourself what type of personality you want. So go ahead and have the type of personality that would leave a comment down below this video to let me know how valuable you thought it was for your own sake. Because I already know, without you saying a single thing to me, how valuable this is. And speak it out loud for your own sake so you know, and put that comment down below in the video, because that's something that I would actually like to see. How about that? As for everything else, well, you've got the Discord. https://discord.gg. If this video gets 200 likes, I'll make the video, which I'll be linking to here on the screen, which is members only, public for everyone. So try and click the button if you're seeing this in the future on a replay, because it might just work for you. Because maybe the people watching this thought that that was worthwhile, valuable enough content just to hit the like button. Maybe. But I doubt it. So you just have